girls, grab your beers.
Hey everybody, this is Charlie from Anthrax, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
This is Mark Metcalf, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio.
You are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio. Yes, Kato Kalin listens to this all the time.
Welcome to today's Boondoggle. Now here's your host.
I am Monty Heath, so one Heath, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
Hey, what's up? It's John from Skillet, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle on Domain Cleveland Radio.
Fasten your seatbelts.
Louder Than Life, September 21st through the 24th in Louisville with Foo Fighters, Green Day, Tool, Avenged Sevenfold, Godsmack, Limp Bizkit, Pantera, Queens of the Stone Age, Weezer, Megadeth, Turnstile, and many more. Get your passes on sale now at louderthanlifefestival.com.
What's going on, everybody? It's Bill Bailey with today's Boondoggle. And real quick housekeeping note, if you are watching us on YouTube or Rumble or BitChute or Odyssey, please hit that follow and subscribe button. And if you are listening to us on Spotify, Apple, Google, your favorite podcast platform, please hit that follow and subscribe button so we can continue to bring you conversations like the ones I'm about to bring you today. We are talking with Stephen Richards of the band Taproot.
Oh yeah, what's up?
How you doing, man?
Pretty good. Like we were just talking off air, you know, it's been kind of a crazy day, but you know, I'm gonna go meet the new kindergarten teacher later.
That's not a bad thing, though. You know, I mean, it's funny though when we look back at, like I said, when you guys would come through and play Peabody's back in the day, you probably didn't think you'd be hitting parent teacher conferences back then, but here we are.
Absolutely not, let alone having half a Brady Bunch.
We're older and more responsible now, man, but you know. Yeah,
definitely older.
But yeah, you know, so usually when I have people on for the first time, speaking of, going back to the days of our youth, do you remember originally what you wanted to be when you grew up?
Honestly, it was always musician or hockey player, and that's the only two things I've ever done with my life, literally.
Nice. And then when was it like that, you know, music kind of caught your ear, and do you remember who were your early influences?
Yeah, I mean, around 3 or 4, I was already, my mom noticed that I wasn't just like air drumming or tapping, you know, like to the beat, not just to the beat, but she realized that I was kind of using my right hand. You know, she didn't know drums, but she noticed that, you know, my foot would move on the downbeats with the kick, and then, you know, my right hand would be keeping time. So she got me my first drum kit when I was like 4 or 5. And so, back in the day, it was kind of goofy because like right when MTV came on the air, I was going into my mom's wardrobe because obviously the clothes back then were kind of cheesy, but I put on like my mom's vest to look like Billy Idol dancing with himself, or, you know, I'd put on some of her stuff just to look like Duran Duran. So that's kind of the stuff, that I got into when I was really, really young.
Nice. Yeah. And then
the worst thing ever is my first concert ever was Aha.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And that was, how did that come about? Let's talk about that a little bit.
It was really weird because, you know, back then it was a lot safer. So I just went with my cousins. We got dropped off. I was probably 8 or something like that. And we didn't know how concerts worked. And so we just sat through the whole Aha set, and they did a encore. But, you know, we didn't know when they left the stage that they were going to come back out. So we were like, they didn't play the one song we know. So we like got up and started walking out. And then, you know, as we're leaving, we hear, din, 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 din. We're like, what? Turned back around and just watched from up top. But it was interesting.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then, like, you know, you mentioned, you know, how you got your first drum kit young because your mom noticed you were keeping on time and everything. But when was it that like singing and performing like really became something that you did?
Well, a lot of people don't realize, like, I mean, I was playing clubs and bars at the age of like 14. They'd have to sneak me in when I was a drummer. So I'd been drumming, you know, like my entire life. And so Mike, our original guitarist, and I, you know, we came up playing together. And a lot of people don't realize that the original version of Taproot is actually, I was actually the drummer. We were kind of like an all-star local Detroit, Ann Arbor combo of people. We had our singer, his name was Dennis. He was in a project called 20 Dead Flower Children, which did okay. And they went out to LA and stuff. And our bassist, yeah, okay. And then our bassist moved to Chicago and started a pretty decent sized band called Mad Hops. So that's when I got forced into singing. And by no means do I still consider myself a singer. At least people know my annoying voice, so at least I sound like myself. But I got forced into singing because at that time, like 96, you know, it was a lot easier to find a drummer than it was to find a singer. So I kind of got forced into singing. And that's when we met up with Jared and Phil. We didn't have have Jared join the band until we played one show because we were doing all drum machine stuff. We thought it'd be really cool to just have three guys rocking out with no drummer. Look kind of crazy. But at the only show we did in that style, I ended up going down to the orchestra pit where all the things were plugged in. I was already wandering around, not being on stage, wanting to be out with people. And I mean, there was only, you know, 25 people in a big ass theater, but I went down and unplugged the drum machine, like totally the way that I think. I just assume that when you plug the drum machine back in, it picks up where you left off. But no, we had to restart the whole set. So.
Nice.
Yeah.
And let's talk about, you know, like, the music scene in your area. Then, you know, you said you were playing with those guys that was that was originally called, you guys were called Taproot back then too, or when did Taproot like come together?
No, Taproot, like coming up, I honestly don't remember Dennis, who went to 20 Dead's original band name when we were playing with them. The only name that I really remember is Factory 81, and there was another band called Workhorse that were really solid, and we'd trade shows back and forth. But Taproot was after our separate local bands came together with Dennis and Dan and Mike and myself. That's when we started Taproot by name. And so like everything that we show publicly right now is established 1997. It was actually 1995 and 96. We never actually played a show. We just jammed, but I lived a little too far away for Dennis to make the drive however many times. And then he also had the 20 Dead thing on his back burner. So it was back in 95, and it was kind of interesting because back then we were kind of, obviously at that time, Korn was a huge, you know, game changer for most musicians, at least coming up. And so we were kind of like a combination of Korn meets Rage Against the Machine. That's kind of what we were going for back then.
Gotcha. And then when did you guys like officially become Taproot?
That would have been in 97 when we started playing local shows and doing some crazy stuff locally. We kind of took over the local scene. We would trade shows to Detroit a little bit, but there was never much going on there. So we ended up making a scene in Ann Arbor, the place to be. Like all the local bands out of Detroit would want to come open for us in Ann Arbor. And the place that we kind of changed overall, it's a local club called the Blind Pig, and it's a pretty well-known club. But at the time that we were coming up, it was kind of like the open mic hippie night. You know, we're a pretty big college town, so you know it would be like a lot of acoustic or spoken word. Or so when we asked if we could play a show, they were like, well, you know, just come in on a Tuesday, we'll see how you do. And we brought everyone that we knew and their families and sold it out, and they were just like, whoa, okay, that's the best Tuesday night we've ever had for sure. And so then they started booking us, and we'd headline once a month there and sell it out every time until I got us kicked out and banned from the bar in 2000.
Okay, well, can't leave with that cliffhanger there.
Right.
What ended up happening with that?
It was our first national tour and Papa Roach's first national tour, and that was all together. Like, it was both of our first tours, so it was amazing. And the tour started in Sacramento, where they're from, and it ended up in Ann Arbor, which is where we're from, and so it was cool. And that they were headlining, most of the tour, because our record was just coming out, and they already had Broken Home. So,
yeah.
No, Last Resort, my bad. So it was a great tour. We get to Ann Arbor, and the local crew and just people around were kind of treating them not like they were headliners. They were kind of not getting the stuff they needed, and they weren't really getting much support and or help from the crew loading in and stuff like that. So they were just kind of being mistreated, in my opinion. So on top of that, starting the day off and continue going, I think some of my friends downstairs were doing stuff that I wasn't really fond of, and I was still getting slowly more inebriated, and I think my girlfriend at the time really pissed me off. It was just the whole day was just going downhill, and by the time it was for me to go on stage, I was just pissed off at the promoter, pissed off at personal family and friends that were downstairs partaking in shit that I didn't like. So just at some point on the stage, I barely remember. I know at one point I threw Mike off the stage with his guitar, but not like mean, but I just wanted him to like kind of crowd surf. I was already doing all that. I was out moshing while I'm singing, stuff like that. So I'm used to it, but I threw him off the stage, which he didn't like. I pushed him so the crowd could catch him and stuff, but he didn't like that. But I just started ranting and raving over the microphone. I think I said that the promoter could take my microphone and shove it up his urethra. Back then, it was kind of crazy. Our drummer, Jared, he's from a small town called Linden up near Flint. And it's kind of, that small town pack of kids where it's, they just all stick together. They all know each other. And a lot of them are roughhousers and tough kids. And then my girlfriend at the time and our future guitar or drum tech, they're from a town called Monroe or Flat Rock, which is similar to Linden, where it's just a bunch of tough, close-knit dudes. And so it was kind of funny because whenever our shows would happen, the pits would always be kind of these guys against those guys, and just based on everything that I was saying and them being kind of hard-headed and whatever, it basically turned into a full-on riot. Like I played hockey with a guy that was on the SWAT team, and they got the 411, and it just turned into a huge brawl. My cousin Mark, he's a big dude, but he's also the biggest teddy bear. That was his first fight, and I could just see the smile on his face as he was just teeing off on people. But it went all the way to the outside, and there were girls fighting, guys fighting. It was just a big mess. So I get why we were kind of banned. And then full circle, it was kind of funny when my wife and I got married 8 years ago, downstairs, which I was talking about, where people that I didn't like partaking in certain things, there's a bar called the 8 Ball, and that's like the best dive bar in Ann Arbor. It still has a jukebox, and it's dirty, it stinks, it's a good element. And so my wife and I, we went after we got married, we went there after, and like, it was just funny. But my wife knew the person that kind of ran the place, and she was just giving me stink eye the whole time. And so my wife was like, yeah, we should probably get out of here. So it was funny. But my wife and I, full garb, she's in a dress, I'm in the suit, and we just go to a dive bar with our hats on backwards. It was pretty cool.
Nice. Yeah. Memories.
Yeah. Yep.
But I mean, I could see like, you kind of, when you're on the road with people, you kind of form like a camaraderie, and I'm sure you had a good relationship with like Jacoby and I think Dave was probably still in the band then, Buck.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And you guys form a friendship, and then you come to your hometown, and you're like probably stoked to like show them off and showcase them, and they're getting treated like garbage. So
yeah. Yeah, no, it was cool. I mean, I haven't really stayed in touch. I know Jared has. I've never really been good at kind of, I like talking to you. I don't have a problem with, and if it's something that we have in common, I'm great. But I haven't stayed in touch with many of the performers that we've, got the pleasure to play with, just because I don't, if it's not hockey or not my type of music, I don't really know how to hold a conversation. Like on tour with Papa Roach, it was great. I could talk to Kobe all day, every day. But if I saw him right now, it'd just be like, well, I'm glad you guys are still killing it. We're trying to get back out there, but what do we talk about now? I don't have any face tattoos. I can't afford
it. There's now, I mean, I know this question's been asked before, but like, what was the inspiration for you guys picking the name Taproot?
It was one of the things that Mike, rightfully so, to his credit, which he would claim about everything. He came across the word in a, thesaurus, whatever you're looking through, not the dictionary, but a thesaurus. And for some reason, it just caught his name because we both agreed on, even though we grew up with Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, and we knew that were, kind of a heavy type of band. We didn't want something to just be straight up stick us in the mud where we have to kind of just do the same thing nonstop. So Taproot seemed vague enough word wise to him, and to me growing up with my crazy dad and the stuff that he studied when I was young. I know that the Native Americans use the word taproot for soul and spirit. So to me, it was perfect.
Awesome. Yeah. And what speaks to the soul and spirit more than music, a lot of times.
For sure.
And then, so, I mean, you guys been, I think, what was it? Your last release was back in 2012, the episodes.
Mm-hmm.
What's motivated, coming back together and putting out new music?
Well, honestly, the new record I wrote in 2012, right after the episodes, I wrote it to be the next Taproot record before all of us couldn't really continue moving forward with one of our band members. So I ended up stepping up for the guys and just saying, I needed a break. So I was going to take a break. And while I took a break, I had to get a real gig, and then I had to take care of my mom before she passed away. And it was kind of like when she passed away, I was just like, oh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So I was like, you know what, I did the record. It took 6 years because I could only work, 4 or 5 hours a week on one of my days off. So it took me forever to do all this stuff. But I finally did it. I was just going to release it on my own and not even make it a release, just kind of post hey, 2,000 or 3,000 followers. If you want to hear the stuff that was supposed to be the next Taproot record, here it is. If you want to get it, check it out. But Phil was the one kind of noticing that it was winding down, and he was like, well, no offense, but you wrote this to be Taproot's next record. And, I don't think kind of just throwing it out your butt would be really all that great for the band's tradition and namesake. So he kind of convinced me into making it a full-on release. And, we've had some shows here and there, maybe 3 shows over the last 10 years or something, which has been great and awesome. But he was the one that kind of just got me full on. So now it's a full record, full release, and we're doing lots of show dates the rest of this year. And hopefully people dig it. Everyone that hears some of the new stuff is kind of blown away, especially knowing now that we have Taylor on guitar, he's like, oh, I get it now. Because a lot of people don't realize that I wrote most of the stuff, or most of the stuff you like. So even he is an amazing guitarist, and I have to teach him certain things to play a certain way because I write guitar like a drummer. So my right hand strumming is very different. It's not just up, down, but there's a lot of hammer-ons and, rhythmic stuff like twos and then off. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but it's pretty cool getting so many compliments and rewarding. Not that that's what I'm looking for, but that the new record stands out and people are like, oh, okay, I get it. Yeah. Cause a lot of people are like, how can it be Taproot without so-and-so involved? And people are like, oh yeah, this is Taproot. I gotcha. So that's kind of fulfilling after some of the stuff that's been said.
Yeah, and then I saw you guys recently released the best of besides. Is that kind of like because of the hiatus, just like throwing this out there, like, hey, remember us? Here we are to get ready for this release.
Kind of. I mean, Jared's the one that released it maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, and he released the whole thing that was like 80 songs. It was like 8 discs or something crazy like that. And that was just for him kind of being like, you know what? No one's ever heard this. Why not just humiliate ourselves and put it all out there? Because most of it's like recordings of me in my basement, and the drums have 4 microphones on them, and just scratch vocals, like trying to write the material. So I'm pretty sure even on the back it's got like crap version, crappier version, decent, they all have like decent take, demo, but really bad version. Like it says that next to all the songs. So that's kind of funny. But then, Phil is working with Tom about our new manager, releasing like a skateboard deck, which we've done, and they're awesome. But he's also the one that wanted to do the mastered version of the best of the Beside songs. So it's pretty cool. I don't think that was like a huge, like, hey, we're back type of thing, but it was a good way to start promoting that we do have some new stuff coming out.
Yeah. Keep the name fresh, but let's talk about this latest album that's getting ready to drop. It's your 7th one. Now, I'm assuming it's Scissors, right? That's how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
All right. But what was the inspiration behind that name?
I chose it a while ago. It's like growing up a hockey player, lots of people come up with nicknames around, usually your last name, and my initials are SSR. So it was kind of one of my many nicknames was Scissors, growing up. But then just in my the way I think, I wanted it to spell kind of like the lesbian sex act. So it's weird how it turned out because, just as a joke, I was calling myself the sci-fi lesbian. So that's why it's the SCI. But the way it ended up turning out is, we turned the I into the backslash, which is kind of cool, just because of the way that I took the initial photo for my promotions, even when it was just me alone. But that now replaces the letter I, since even though it's Taproot, it's kind of my beast. So it's kind of the I. So it's lesbian act with the I in the middle and my initials and just a cool name.
Well, good. I'm glad I asked that question so we get that explanation.
Yeah,
that was the lesbian act.
Right. That was the thing too, is that the Taproot thing did come to fruition, which is amazing and great. But I was just going to release it make my new stage name Scissors. So I suppose unless we write Taproot records together or I write stuff to be Taproot in the future, I'm probably just going to go off and just go by Scissors.
Okay. So yeah, just so you have that established as a your creative stamp.
Yeah. I mean, not to be like Prince or anything, but, not just, hey, Steve, originally from Taproot, releasing a couple songs here. No, it's Scissors now.
The artist formerly known as Lesbian Act. All right.
Yeah, well, I identify as a lesbian, so.
Yeah, I think me too.
Yeah,
but,
I love vagina.
Part of that Me Too movement right there.
Fair enough.
All right. And then before I get us canceled. No,
it's a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. It gets us, whatever. No or bad publicity. Any kind of publicity is good publicity, right?
Well, right. I'm not mocking anything whatsoever. I'm just giving myself credit for liking vagina. So
yeah,
I'm pro that, not anti anything, honestly.
Yeah, I just had Stormy Maya on the podcast, and we did a lot of talking about her vagina and vagina in general. So it was quite an interview. Yeah, you have to check it out.
I will, absolutely will. But
now, talking about some of the promotion for the new album, I saw that you got a single at I didn't see it yet that it's dropped. It's getting ready to Favorite Song.
Yep.
Working with Elias from Nonpoint on it. Yeah. We want to talk about how that came together and that relationship.
Sure. I mean, that was pretty much in my head the go-to, you know, back when I wrote that 10 years ago, whatever, like that was my kind of, you know, when Poem came out, it was clearly, you know, the single, and that's what I wrote it to be. And then over the years, it was kind of just, you know, back up, let the guys do a little bit more and stuff. But when I wrote that song, it was basically the, you know, like, okay, here's a hit song for you. Like, we need it. So that's what I wrote it to be. Now it's harder to get play on radio, so I don't think it'll take off as much as it could have back then. But hopefully it gets some traction. The song itself, I think, is really cool. I mean, it's literally called Favorite Song because I think everyone in the world can probably relate to singing along with their favorite songs, but not exactly knowing every word, but you still keep kind of going, singing along with it, even if you don't know the right words. And so that's what the song's about, is I don't even know the lyrics to my favorite song, but every time I seem to sing along, that's the chorus. So that's cool. And the Elias thing, I don't know. I was kind of putting feelers out to see what I thought might make sense. And so even just like joking on my Instagram lives, I'm like, you know, who would you want to have guest appear? Who would you want to have guest appear? And I mean, Elias was on my, you know, list of maybe like 3 people, but the most common answer from my followers was Elias. And so I'm like, all right, absolutely. Cause you know, we played many shows together. We know each other pretty well, and they're still out there kicking butt. So that was a pretty easy reach out to do. And he was more than happy to do it, and he nailed it. I mean, his part, even my, you know, when we had it a year ago, my 5-year-old even sings most of the part. And, you know, that's new to her. She's heard my demos of it for, you know, 4 years. She's been singing that since she was 3. But that's how long I've been working on this.
Nice. Well, yeah. You know, I just saw Elias on the psychotherapy sessions tour with Mudvayne and the Nonpoint guys, and had him on the podcast
nice
recently as well. And you know, another great conversation I had, because it's always like, you know, we talk a lot about the music, but then I always find the things that we connect on. And you know, him being another, you know, a dad as well, we connected on that. And you know, I guess, you know, he shares that he homeschools his kids and everything, which I thought was really cool and admirable. And you know, I always like connecting on like, I'm not a musician, I'm a music fan, but I always try and find something that I connect with the people I have on. So always good to talk to the fellow dads out there and see, you know, how things are going on your end. I raised two daughters, you know, pretty much, you know, was a single dad after my last deployment in 2008. And, you know, went through the whole, like, you know, they hated me for a while, and now it's like I'm their best friend, you know. So
good. Well,
beautiful thing, man.
Thank you for your service. I know it doesn't mean much to most people from a civilian, but I'm very grateful. So thank you.
I appreciate it, man. And then you know, I did check out the track that you guys have on YouTube right now, No One Else to Blame.
Let me cut you off real quick. It's going to be our next show is the Taste of Madison in Wisconsin, and we're playing with Nonpoint. So as of now, that's going to be the only performance where Elias is going to be able to come out and sing favorite song with us. So that's next weekend. So I'm excited about that.
Nice. That's good. I'm sure that'll be floating around on YouTube too after that. So
hopefully
check it out.
Yeah. So we're playing with Nonpoint. That's going to be a good flashback, and he'll come out and help us have a great song, hopefully.
And then back to that No One Else to Blame track. Like, what was the you know, the message or whatever? Did you have a message or inspiration when writing that song?
I did. That one, it's funny because I don't really read too much of what people are saying. You know, I know there's people that support it and people that hate it. And like the one thing that I read was, you know, people saying like, oh, I hate the sample, the kids at the beginning and how it runs through the song. And like, I totally understand and appreciate that. You know, I'm not much of a fan of backtracks and stuff, but the song, I can just picture a bunch of younger kids playing like soccer. It's like a soccer chant and having fun outside together, that type of thing. And the song is more about like teenage bullying stuff. And so I thought it'd be kind of cool to have like a happy sounding childhood underneath lyrics that are kind of talking about, how negative, bullying can be online, as well as, like the social media and stuff, how it makes people think. And so it's the topic kind of meshed with the positivity, with the negativity. I thought it was kind of cool. So.
Yeah, man. And, like going back to dad mode, it's like, I remember, like when I grew up, and I'm sure I'm much older than you, but, but I'm, there wasn't no social media and stuff like that when we were in school, so it's just like, you dealt with bullying at school, but you had somewhere you could go, and, you had a place you can go and kind of tune it out for a little bit, at least, till you had to go to school the next day and you finally handled it,
Yeah,
but
for sure.
But, our kids today, it's just like, it's like there's no escape, man, with social media and everything. And everybody's even more like rude and crude because they just have no filter, using social media. And then, having daughters, it's like even seems like so much tougher because it's like it's all about image and all about, whatever with them. So it's like having that talk with them while they're young, or, my youngest is in jujitsu and stuff with me. So it's like, all right, I know she's, can handle herself, but they've been through it. It's like the schools are different now. I remember when my one daughter got in a fight in school because she was getting bullied and she fought back. So she got suspended.
Good.
I get called into the office, and they're like, well, your daughter's getting suspended too because she fought back. And I looked at my daughter and I said, hey, I'm proud of you. You got nothing to worry about with me.
Mm-hmm.
And then their jaws drop. It's like, what, do you think I'm going to raise victims here?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. No, I'm totally down. I picture the same thing. I've got one that's, just about 13 going on 22. But, she has the whole up, down, left, right, and I've made it known, that she's seeing people fight and stuff. But, if she gets in a fight, as long as she's not picking on someone smaller than her or whatever, because she seems to defend her friends when they're getting picked on. So I think she could end up being a target. But I'm like, hey, do what you got to do. Like, I will never be mad if you stand up for yourself or your friends. Like, you're good to go. So don't worry about that.
Yeah. And I try making it clear to my girls too. It's just like, because I have one that's very, outgoing and talkative, and another one would keep a lot of stuff bottled up. And, she's the one that's now in jujitsu. So she's like been coming out of her shell and stuff, which has been amazing. But just, hey, you can always come talk to me, don't like, whatever you're dealing with, whatever you got going on, you can talk to me about everything. I tried, it took a lot of work on my end, to be more available or whatever, because it's like I was raised by a World War II Marine, and the way I was brought up is not, it doesn't really work with girls in general,
Right.
So it's like I had to learn that they've taught me how to be a better man and stuff like that, but
yeah, that's awesome.
It's
weird too, because I'm actually thinking about, wife's not excited about it, but I want to get my 6-year-old daughter into jiu-jitsu too. Not just so she can defend herself or, choke people out when she gets older, but she's not the most coordinated, athletic type of kid. I took her to try soccer out and she didn't even get the fundamentals of like, they're on your team, pass the ball. She just wants to kick it. And then half the time she'd kick the top and almost fall over. And I'm like, oh God. I haven't taken, with the whole COVID thing, we're really far behind on, where she's at socially and stuff. So I think jiu-jitsu would be kind of a fun way to get out there, do something athletic, and then also, have some skills. And, obviously there's a lot of whatchamacallit behind it. It starts with the D word, but I can't think of it. Discipline.
Discipline. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's been amazing for my daughter. And it's like, it's been great for myself as well,
Yeah.
And we were actually in Ann Arbor. She competed at like a Fuji competition up there, like I think right after COVID, when things started slowly opening back up again.
Mm-hmm.
But next time I make it out that way, I'll try and check out the scene of your big Papa Roach riot, you know.
No, fair enough. Yeah, go to Blind Pig. Check it out. That's the crazy thing is like after we turned it into that, it became, you know, like lots of national acts would start playing there until Machine Shop took off. Now everyone wants to play Machine Shop in Flint, which is the best, you know, bar venue. So that took over.
And then, like what, I read that, you know, well, I mean, and as you've explained, this whole album has pretty much been you since 2012 putting it together. But how long have you been like, you know, doing production and, you know, that the process of producing, is that something that, you know, you enjoy doing?
Yeah. I mean, for this album, it wasn't really, you know, production. It was just me writing the songs and then finally getting into the studio. And luckily Tim Paddleton, the guy that produced our last two records, whatever it is, out in Saline, Michigan. He runs a studio called The Loft. He's always just been really cool, and he just let me go out there whenever I wanted to try to just record some stuff. Like I said, it took 6 years because I was doing everything on my own. And spoiler alert, even though I am a drummer and I did do all the demos on drums when I was out living in Las Vegas, I did program the drums. So the drums are drum machine quality. But it was kind of cool because I took in my demos, which again only had, you know, like 4 microphones on an entire drum kit. And so I flew them into the program, and then I just mocked the stuff that I was playing. So at least I know I was playing it, and I've shown videos of people just to like me playing the more difficult stuff and teaching Jared some of the new stuff that he's kind of not up to par but doesn't know yet. So, you know, I have to show him how to do it. But it's pretty funny because I make fun of, you know, not only is it like perfect sound, however you want it to sound, you can make it sound, but it's also like a lot better of a performance. I'm kind of a loose drummer. Cool parts, but very loose. So at least it's on the grid, and it makes it sound a little heavier because the first half of this record's really heavy.
Gotcha. And then, like, you know, you mentioned Jared. Like, what was it, you know, being your original drummer of the band? How was it getting back together and bringing him back into the fold? Or
oh, it's awesome. He played 1 or 2 of the shows that we've done randomly over the last 10 years, whatever I said. But no, he's literally, I got in trouble for saying this the other night, but he's literally the nicest and probably best at heart person you'll ever meet. Like, he is such a sweetheart. And on top of that, he has the most infectious laugh whatsoever. And he loves my terrible, dry, sarcastic sense of humor. So I've got to ride. I'm his car mate when we go to these shows. It's him and I drive in one of the vans, and I just spend the whole time just making him laugh with terrible jokes. And you know, we'll just be both like last time we got to the hotel in Wisconsin, we couldn't get out of the van for like 2 or 3 minutes because we were both, you know, like crying, laughing. He was complaining his stomach hurt. I think I was kind of clenching my unit so I didn't pee my pants. No, having him back is amazing, and it's obviously a throwback to kind of the way that it was. And you know, it's like riding a bike for him. He just comes back in, except for not knowing the brand new songs, and he's picking those up quick. So it's great.
Nice. And then I see you've been giving like fans like some updates and, you know, a taste of what's to come and everything with your Taproot Tuesday podcast. How'd that come to be for you?
I know Phil and Tom, our manager guy, they started doing that, and I'm not that big of a Facebook guy. I'm more of an Instagram guy, and I'm not really either. I just use them to post band stuff, or my 6-year-old. She's adorable. So I didn't even know they were doing that for a while until Tom like sent a link saying like, hey, if you want to show up tonight, it's going to be a good one. I'm like, show up to what? He's like, oh, Taproot Tuesdays. We do it every Tuesday. You know, just get on it, Tom. So I got on it, and the few they never remind me. So I think I've only done 3, maybe 4 out of the last 10 weeks that I know of. But at least Elias on one of them. So that was really cool to kind of be a part of that one, just to go back and forth and make jokes and talk about the song, whatever.
That's cool. I'll have to go back and check that out. But yeah, they better remind you that Tuesday comes after Monday and before Wednesday, so you can tune in.
Well, it'll be a little easier now. I ended up quitting my professional job. I quit so we could do this run of shows. So I'm kind of hoping it works out pretty well, because come the end of December, as of now, I'm unemployed. So I'm trying to make sure that at least I stow away a little bit of money that I make, at least so I can pay the car and the insurance.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you guys do got, I see you're going to be playing the Blue Ridge Rock Fest, which is a huge festival. So it'd be almost like getting back on the Ozfest, days, I guess, for you guys, except for it's one weekend, but still,
right. Yeah.
A lot of good networking and exposure there. How did that come to be for you guys?
It's weird because over the last couple of years, Phil, he's still been the business guy. On and off, he'd be the ones like, oh, it's our 20th reunion for this, do you want to play a show? Sure, why not? So he'll call Kevin at Machine Shop, one of the best promoters and coolest dudes ever too. So Phil's been that guy. I didn't realize it when COVID was going on, but I didn't realize they were starting, like Blue Ridge, they booked almost a year out. And a year before that, Phil was like, hey, do you want to play the show in Vegas? And it's in May. And I think he was asking me in, say, like February or March, so we were like, oh God, we only have like 2 months to get ready for this. I don't think we'd be ready. And I was like, no, I don't think we can do that. And he's like, okay. But he meant for like 2023. It was the show that just happened in Vegas, and he was submitted that last year. So it's kind of like, oh, I didn't know stuff was being booked out that far ahead, so I could have said yes. But the Blue Ridge, I think that just fell on Phil's lap. It's kind of odd how it's that full circle kind of with fashion, how stuff comes and goes, but then it comes full around again. And it's kind of interesting to see not just us, but it seems like prime time for a lot of bands of our time period, as well as our style of music and whatever. So it's kind of a good time to at least get back out there and play for our, we haven't played for our fans in a while, and they're getting to see all their favorite bands around the same time, coming back out and doing shows together, as well as the new stuff. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was cool to see Cold Chamber back out. They played at the Incarceration Festival here in Ohio, and then then they're on that tour with Nonpoint with Mudvayne, who just recently got back together too. So it's like a lot of the old stuff that I would hit back in the day is coming back. So I'm definitely looking forward to hearing Poem live again, though. You guys are supposed to hit my neck of the woods in October at the Winchester.
Right on.
October 21st. I think you guys are going to be with September Morning, and my good friends at Brothers at Arms are going to be like local support for you guys. Right. So
it's cool. Yeah.
Looking forward to that, and then connecting with you and sharing some dad jokes.
Fair enough. So I guess when you see us play Poem live again, I'll be 46 by a week.
All right. So that's I'm 50, so
Okay. Well, we still would have gone to high school together.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But yeah, man, I'm definitely looking forward to that, and then hopefully I can hear Jared's laugh at some point.
I'll get it for you.
We'll make sure that happens.
Oh yeah.
But with coming back and playing out, what's been one of your favorite? Obviously, Poem's a big hit, brings back a lot of memories. But what's been one of your favorite songs to play live? Off some of the, have you played some of the new stuff?
We have played the new stuff, and that's kind of been a train wreck so far. Just because we rehearsed 2 days in a row, 2 weeks before the first two shows. Then we had 2 weeks until the last two shows. And then now we have 2 weeks until Taste of Madison. So we've only rehearsed twice and then played the shows together, tried a couple during sound checks when we had them. But I think favorite song will be Nailed for Taste with Elias. and that's going to be a shorter set because obviously it's a bigger festival, so it's not us headlining. So I don't think we're going to play all 3 of the new songs that people might know. But getting out on stage, for me, it's always just seeing the familiar faces, and even the ones that aren't familiar, if they're having, you know, a good time, that's kind of the best part. Or looking back at Jared after I make bad jokes on stage, he'll just be dying too. But, you know, it's also in my wheelhouse that I have a hard time just standing on stage, you know, like there's only so much I can do to feel like I'm entertaining people. So I've been getting back out in the, you know, there's shows that there shouldn't be mosh pits, and I just start moshing and everyone just starts going crazy. Like they love it. You know, I've been jumping off of fire escapes and doing stuff that no one expects, you know, because nowadays people are just at shows with their cameras, you know, not really participating like we used to do. So I kind of make them.
Yeah, exactly. You know, the show's here, not, you know, don't look at it through a screen. Look at it with your eyes while you stroke the can.
This hat that I have on right now, I left the stage at the last show and I was just wandering around with my wireless mic, and I was like taking people's hats and exchanging them. I don't know who got my hat. I missed my hat, but you know, I was just doing like musical chairs. Everyone's like, what is this guy doing? They notice I have a microphone. I'm at the other stage trying to line up this, you know, my lyrics to the song. But that's me. I'm goofy because, you know, it's not 100% Taproot fans at the big festival, so I like doing stuff to at least grab their attention, not just have them sit there like, they were okay, whatever, you know. If we were just okay, whatever, but at least you'll be talking about us to whoever.
Yeah, no, exactly. Leave them with a memory when they, you know, go home, that there's something that they'll be talking about, you know. Yeah.
Not my cup of tea, but man, this guy did that.
Yeah. Damn it, that was my favorite hat.
Right. Yeah. That's great.
But so, before we get ready and wrap up, I want to ask you some of the questions that I normally ask guests that I have on. Yeah. Who are your top 3 musical artists?
Like of all time?
Yeah.
Holy cow. Top 3. Well, I think obviously Alice in Chains would have to be one, because that's Dirt is the album that I taught myself how to play guitar to. Like I'm self-taught everything. Like, so I self-taught my guitar to Alice in Chains Dirt, which is still kind of funny because when I talk about my favorite song being favorite song, not knowing the lyrics and singing along, I still sing along with Dirt songs, and I don't know the words to all my favorite, you know, it's one of my favorite records. So yeah. I don't know. So Alice in Chains for sure. Obviously, I think he was a game changer vocally for a lot of people too. And I was this close to actually hopefully getting him on our record before he passed away. That's another cool story, is his mom asked Toby, and even in the autobiography or whatever it's called about his life, the only CD that he had in his apartment was ours. And so his mom asked Toby, our producer, Toby Wright, you know, so who's this Taproot band? And so it was like kind of cool. Like at least, you know, he had that. So that's a cool just thing to know that, you know, at least he was planning on doing something. So, all right, that was a long, dumb story. I'm sorry. So
no, it was good stuff, man. Yeah.
Alice in Chains. God, I mean, there's so many. Like growing up as a drummer, there was so many. Like Slayer, but I wouldn't say they're like my favorite band. But playing drums to Slayer when I was skipping school in junior high, you could hear my drums at the school, so everyone knew when I was skipping school if they heard drums. But I think Alice in Chains because I taught myself guitar. I will say Slayer just because that's who I drummed to most. Like, you know, during the up and coming, because I was a pretty with it drummer. I'm a very double kick type of drummer, and I think playing with Slayer was intricate part of my life. And then I'd have to say that probably, even though I like the Deftones overall better, I'd have to give Korn for kind of changing the way that our scene of music went. You know, they kind of created the whole new metal thing just by down tuning and dressing a little different. And so I think that was huge for me, especially since they came to a different club in Ann Arbor. I faked my ID for it to get in. it worked for the show, but Jonathan was sick, so they didn't end up playing. So I didn't get to see Korn the night they played in Ann Arbor. But because I faked my own ID and did it well enough, I started going to Deja Vu, the titty bar, underage. Spent half of my later teenage years there.
So thank Korn for that motivation to fake your ID.
Yep.
Shout out to Korn for the titty bar.
I had a friend. Yeah, I had a friend that worked at like the local, like smaller movie theater who was like going through the lost and founds, with IDs. Like, no. So back then we had like the paper IDs, like when you're waiting to get your license.
Yeah. So
I erased the 7 from my birth year, and it was like back when they printed, and it was like all dotty from the printer, from the printers. So I ended up just like changing the 7 to a 6, and it looked close enough. And so with that, and even though I didn't graduate on time, and I made the Eastern Michigan Hockey Club, I had an ID that I was going to Eastern because I didn't know that I didn't graduate high school on time yet. So I had my Eastern ID and my fake driver's license, and so they'd let me go in. And once I got in, I knew everyone at the bar or at the club, so because I was back so often, so that was kind of cool. So thank you, Korn, for changing music and getting me into the titty bars underage.
That's awesome. Yeah. And then we've talked a little bit about school, but what would you say would be your what class do you feel should be mandatory before graduating high school today?
Mandatory, I'd say all of them, but I mean, how can you not say math or science? I guess all the core classes should be mandatory, but I don't like reading, and you can also write a bunch of BS. I mean, you can read online whether it's true or not true. So
yeah,
I'm not as worried about English. I think math's obviously very important, but I'm also a pretty big guy about learning how stuff works. So even though I wasn't good at school, I think science is probably the most important to me.
Gotcha. And then who are 3 people who've inspired you and you can credit for making you the person you are today?
Number 1 would be Howard Stern, for sure. I grew up coming across his stuff real young age. Like when I was visiting my grandparents in Chicago, I'd hear him, and I was probably, like 11, 12, something like that. He's basically, I'd call him my dad growing up because I grew up an only child with a single mom. So he was like kind of the father figure that I looked up to, and I already had that type of sense of humor. I didn't mind, he's never been what people think he is. He just makes bad jokes, but he's never been a chauvinist or anti-women or anything like that. He just makes terrible jokes, and he got out of hand now at Sirius, but it's really cool for how important he's been a part of my life. I've got to be so close to him in so many ways. I did get to meet him. He was at our show in New York when we played with Linkin Park, so getting to meet him was awesome. But before getting to meet him, I'd been in both of his New York studios. I'd leave notes. And then, so I got to see both of the studios. The day that Howard went to Sirius, he had his last performance on terrestrial radio at K-Rock. It was his last one. And then he went from that to Sirius to do like the welcome party. And we were on tour with Stained, and Stained played the acoustic whatever song for the goodbye on K-Rock. So they played with Howard. So we were already kind of there. So we got to go to the Sirius welcoming party, and I was hanging out with all the Whack Packers, and got to see Martha Stewart and Sheryl Crow, and it was different but cool. So Howard Stern, long, geez, what a story.
Right.
2 more. Jesus, Howard Stern. I don't really know who's influenced my life much more than people I come across. I don't know. Like, honestly, if I could lump our fans into one person, they've kind of helped me shape into where I am. But that's probably why I'm so awkward with people, is I'm just kind of me. I don't really know how to relate until we get to talk, and I haven't really had much influence. I mean, there's just the influence of like, whoever got me into drumming, like that I was drumming to, which I wouldn't remember. I was so young. I was just playing along. But, you know, and then
Mom bought that kit though, you know?
well, yeah. Oh shit. How did I leave her out of this? She's before Howard Stern. Jesus. She's the first one that was okay with my weird sense of humor and kind of following my dreams. I mean, she paid for the hockey and paid for the drum kit and guitar and everything. So yeah, I mean, she's the one that would go get frostbite at 6 a.m. at an outdoor rink and, you know, tie my skates for me. But she's also the one, she never once was like, you need to do better in school. And you need, you know, she just wanted me to be happy. And so she knew that I could end up making it work, and hockey didn't work out. So luckily this one did.
Yeah. Good stuff, man.
So my mom and Howard Stern, I'm good there.
All right. And then, any organizations or causes that you support and encourage others to check out?
Well, there's a lot, not just stuff. I've been involved in some of the you know, the veteran stuff. My job that I recently quit after 8 years, we worked with brain injuries and mental health. So I think both topics, whether it's, you know, brain injuries or mental health, are very, very serious, and it's kind of tough to watch because the place I worked, it was a brain injury place. So I got to, you know, work with a lot of veterans and professional athletes that, you know, ended up with trauma. But our local governor, it was weird because anyone that had the issue of the brain injury, if it was like a car or whatever, the insurance paid for it. It wasn't just like, okay, we cover your bills. It was like, you know, you're good. You know, you need a place to live. You need support. We got you. But a couple years ago, our governor signed off on the no fault, no whatever auto policy. So now we had to switch to CMH because if you get in a car crash and you get messed up, they'll pay for your hospital bills, but you're on your own as far as like where you're living, who's taking care of you, all that, you're on your own. So it was just kind of sad to see because a lot of the people I've worked with don't have much, you know, they're not their own guardians, and a lot of them, they're, you know, just kind of forgotten about by their families. Like, who cares? So that sucks. So I look into anything that can help with brain injuries or mental health and helping them survive. But I'm also an animal guy too. Like, you know, I've rescued animals. I've rescued, you know, pits for a long time. I've rescued cats. And it's not just those two, but I mean, even every time I look at the tiger commercial where it's like tigers, you know, dying off and elephants and whatever. So I'm all for that. But I think the most important to me would be like children's hospitals with like cancer and stuff like that. You got to take care of the kiddos.
Yeah. Definitely. I just had a thought when you were talking about the animals, though. I remember those like infomercials with the Sarah McLachlan, you know, sad song in the background. And I'm like, maybe that could be one of your next projects. You can write the sad song for one of those animal causes.
Right. Well, that's the one thing too, is when I just brought up the children's hospitals, and on one of the news stations, this was a while ago, but the lady had a great point, because, you know, her child has cancer and a whole bunch of issues at, you know, one of the children's hospitals. And she pointed out that when they show the Sarah McLachlan commercials, you know, the dogs always look so pathetic, and that's probably why it tugs at your heartstrings. But she pointed out whenever you see a lot of the St. Jude commercials and everything, they're showing all the kids like smiling and happy and everything good happens here at this place. They're not showing like how sick the kids are and how they need the help too. You know, they're reaching out for you, for asking for donations and help to help the kids, but they're showing the kids all happy and chipper, like
not vomiting and, you know, after chemo and all that stuff, you know, the real, you know, maybe show up before how the kid looked, you know, with their health and full head of hair. And then this is what they're struggling with now, you know?
Yeah. Please help.
Yeah. I agree. And then, favorite toy as a child? On a more cheerier note.
That's bad. I am a TBI client myself. Like, I've had so many concussions, and then I've seen so many bad things that I've blocked out a lot of my memories. But I'd probably just, the one thing that jumps out would have to be the original Nintendo. Like, I wasn't really much of I loved some of my wrestling figures, like especially the good rubber ones back in the day.
Oh yeah.
So those were my go-to with my hands, but I couldn't beat the original Nintendo. You couldn't pry me away from TV for that.
Well, you just opened the door for a question I haven't got to ask in a while, and with the rubber wrestler, favorite wrestler.
My favorite wrestler by far, especially good old days, was Bret Hart when he was a part of the, with Jim the Anvil.
Yeah, the Hart Foundation.
Yeah, Hart Foundation. Bret Hart, like no matter what you think or know about wrestling, like his style of execution and just he knows how to take a hit and he falls like perfectly awkward. And I kind of like the bad guys. So when he was part of the Hart Foundation, he was by far my favorite wrestler. Like, when he became solo, he was still probably one of my favorites, but I was already starting to kind of get out of wrestling. Didn't really like him as much as his own, but Bret Hart was my favorite wrestler. And again, back with the good original wrestling figures, his was the crappiest. Just like this.
Yeah.
Couldn't even do any moves with him. He's got like one arm's down by his side and the other one's just like up. Like, oh, great. Didn't even look like
he's almost like in a bushwhacker pose or some shit.
Right, yeah, mid, yeah. But he also that was another thing too. Is for some reason I loved their get-ups with just the solid one stripe. Whether it was the teal with the white stripe or black stripe rather, or the black ones with the white stripe. Like I loved their outfits, their singlets and stuff with the pants.
Yeah, and we just lost a legend yesterday, Terry Funk.
Really? I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Shout out to Terry Funk. I'm a big wrestling fan. I still, it's my still my male soap opera. But yeah, I was watching back from WrestleMania 2, on. Cool. And
I was at WrestleMania 3.
Oh yeah, there at the Pontiac Silverdome.
Yeah, I was there when Andre got slammed by the Hulkster. I was there.
That is awesome.
Yep, that was cool.
And then any message that you have for our military members that are currently serving overseas?
Oh, geez, God bless you. Try to stay safe. And man, I wish try to manifest that the world gets a little bit better. I mean, we have you guys for a reason and that's our protection. So thank you. But I don't want us to go overboard and try starting stuff and put you guys at risk. So just stay safe and thank you so much for your support. And hopefully if you get a TBI, maybe I'll be back to work and say, hey.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing I can say because their families are so important to them. And I mean, you guys are just putting yourself ahead of not putting yourself ahead, but you're taking the risk for all of us, which is like really cool. And that's like one of the things that had I not just been into hockey and music, I probably could have gone that way because I'm a little bit of a sociopath. So I think I might have been decent at it. Like, not much to care about at that point in time. So like I would have loved to serve our country. But just like I said, I want to be lesbian. I identify as a lesbian. I also too identify as a Canadian because I'm a hockey kid. So
nice. Well, man, Stephen, it's been great talking with you. For any of the fans out there, like, a lot of the new kids that might not be familiar with Taproot and what you guys are up to and want to check you out if you're coming through their town, where would you send them for all that information?
Probably taprootofficial.com or officialtaproot.com. On Instagram, it's official Taproot, or if you just look up anything Taproot on anything social, you're good. Even if you go on Google and just hit Taproot and it'll pop up, just depends on what you're looking for. I recommend kind of trying to find some of the new stuff, which you can find links to on, all our social media platforms. And I don't know, I just check it out, see if you like it, whatever. It's out there for you. If you do, if you don't, enjoy what you do.
Sounds good. Well, man, Once again, thanks for your time. I'm glad we were able to make this happen. Hope you have a killer parent-teacher conference tonight. And,
Thanks.
before I let you go, can you do one last favor for me?
Absolutely.
Mind cutting a promo ID for the show? Just introduce yourself, and you're listening to today's Boondoggle.
Okay. You just whenever?
Yeah, whenever you're ready.
All right. What's up, guys? I'm Stephen Richards from Taproot, and I just want to let you know you're listening to one of my favorite podcasts. It is Today's Boondoggle.
Awesome. All right, man. Yeah, good stuff. Thanks again for your time, and look forward to connecting with you in October when you come through Cleveland.
Well, I'll remember you. Okay. Well, I'm so sorry I had to keep changing on you. Stupid.
No, it's all good, man. I understand.
All right.
We got it done.
Oh, perfect. I enjoyed it. Now, thank you so much, and I'll see you in a couple months?
Yep.
All right. Well, have a good one.
All right, you too.
All right, see ya. I'm coming, baby.